Good day, everyone. Good day to all of you. And today we will be discussing about the topic of business correspondence. And I will be discussing all the parts that you have to learn in order for you to understand on how to write a business letter. So let's proceed. For now, I will be sharing my screen to you so that we can understand the lesson too. Okay. So our topic for today is business correspondence. Writing the basic business letter. So this is basically the example of a business letter. A letter contains many parts, each of which contributes to your overall message. Let us take a look at the parts of the business letter. Return address, date, inside address, salutation, body, complimentary close, and the type written signature. The parts of their placement in your letter from the basic conventions of effective letter writing. Readers look for a certain information in key places. The parts of the letter discussed in the following section will appear in every letter you write. This figure is a sample letter containing all of the parts discussed. Parts of a business letter. So the first one is the sender address or sender's address, wherein the heading of the letter may be either your company's letterhead or your full return address. Do not write the sender's name or title as it is included in your letter's closing. Include only the street address, city, and the zip code. Example, 213 Paroba Street, Calagiman, Samal 2113, Bataan. Next is the date or the date line. Try to leave 4 lines below the letterhead before the date line. Spell out the name of the month in full, for instance, September or March, rather than Sep or Mar, or what we call the abbreviation. So do not use abbreviation in writing the date line. The date line is usually keyboarded in this way. November 11, 2016. When writing to companies within the United States, use American date format. For example, February 11, 2021, as I've said earlier. And also remember that write out the month, day, and year. The next part of the business letter is the inside address. The inside address, the address of the recipient, is always placed against the left margin, 2 lines below the date line. It contains the name, title of any company, street, address, city, state, and zip code of the person to whom you are writing. To write the address, use the US Post Office format. For international addresses, type the name of the country in all capital letters on the last line. The inside address begins 1 line below the date. It should be left justified no matter what or no matter which format you are using. Example, Lourdes S. Santos, Dean, College of Education. The next one is the salutation. Use the same name and the inside address. Two spaces below the inside address includes your salutation or your greeting. Begin with the courtesy title, the reader's last name, not unless first name basis. Example, Dear Mr. Forbes. Always remember also that you have to use colon in writing a formal letter. Do not use a comma. Leave 1 line blank after the salutation. If you don't know the reader's gender, use a non-sexist salutation such as their job title followed by the receiver's name. The next one is the body. The body of your letter Two spaces after the salutation contains your message. Some of your messages will be only few lines, while others may extend to three or more paragraphs. Keep your sentences concise and try to hold your paragraphs to less than 7 lines. In the first paragraph, consider a friendly opening and then a statement of the main point. The next paragraph should begin justifying the importance of the main point, and the closing paragraph should restate the purpose of your writing. The next one is closing. The closing or the complementary close. A close 2 lines below the last line of your message is equivalent of a formal goodbye. Just like sincerely, respectfully, sincerely yours, and so on. Capitalize the first word, for example, thank you, and leave 4 lines between the closing and the sender's name for a signature. If a colon follows the salutation, a comma should follow the closing. Otherwise, there is no punctuation after the closing. Enclosures. If you have enclosed any documents along with the letter, such as as a resume, you indicate this simply by typing enclosures below the closing. Typist initials. Typist initials are used to indicate the person who typed the letter. If you type the letter yourself, omit the typist initials. So tips in business letter writing. Number 1, use a professional tone. Always try to focus on the needs of the reader and make an effort to see things from their perspective. Put yourself in their position and imagine what if or what it would be like for you to be receiving a letter. Generally speaking, the tone and content of business letters should be formal and factual. Feelings and emotions do not have a place in a business letter. So avoid phrases like we feel, we believe, or we think. Save casual, chatty language for email. Your printed business letter should be friendly but more professional. Write clearly. Use a clear and direct writing style that uses simple words and straightforward phrases. Make sure that your flow follows a logical progression, first identifying the main subject, elaborating on it, and then drawing a logical conclusion. State your point early in your letter. Organize your information logically. By definition, business letters should be short and to the point, preferably 1 page in length. Studies have found that busy business people do not like to read beyond the first page and will actually delay reading longer letters. So if you don't want your letter to gather dust in an in basket, keep it as short as possible. Group related information into separate paragraphs. In a long, information-packed letter, consider organizing information into sections with subheads. Use color to emphasize words in text. By their very nature, business letters need to be accurate and timely. They almost always have financial implications and related impacts on the other businesses and or people. Double check all the facts stated in the letter and make sure that any future dates specified give others enough time to realistically complete what is expected of them. So it's easy to put a few words in color to draw attention to them. Be persuasive. Before writing the letter, take a few minutes to list all of the specific points you need to cover. Sometimes it may even mean a phone call to a recipient or his or her company to confirm a specific point. Remember, the purpose of your letter is to tie up all of the details on the subject at hand so that more letters won't have to be written back and forth. Back and forth. Establish a positive relationship with your reader right away. It is important to find common ground and build your case from them. Understand your reader. Address your reader's needs or wishes or a specific problem, and then outline your salutation. Provide proof in the way of examples and or expert opinions to back up your point. Make sure to maintain a friendly tone. Always consider your reader in writing a business letter. It is important and it is a must for you to understand it. Conclude your letter with a call to attention. State clearly what your reader needs to do or believe to achieve the desired solution, and then state what you, the reader, intend to do to follow up. There are certain words and phrases that one often sees in business correspondence that tend to make the language more complicated and cumbersome than necessary. Proofread your letter. It is important in every letter writing that you will do. Proofread your letter so that you may see all the things that are not needed in your letter. All your careful crafting and printing can cover up spelling or punctuation errors, which leave a lasting negative impression. So if you want to achieve a good impression for your letter, you should proofread your cover letter or your business correspondence so that they will understand and they will see that you are good for the position. Letter C, a note about format and font. Number one, the block format. When writing business letters, you must pay special attention to the format and the font use. The block format is the most common, and it is also the example that I gave to you earlier. Second is the modified block. Another widely utilized format is known as modified block format. In this type, the body of your letter and the reader's and recipient address are left justified and single spaced. However, for the date and closing tab, to the center point and begin to type. Number three, semi-block. The final and the least used style is semi-block. It is much like the modified block style except that each paragraph is intended instead of left justified. Font. To stay away from fancy fonts, instead use the formal fonts like Times New Roman or Arial. As it's stated here in our presentation, the generally accepted font is Times New Roman size 12, although other fonts such as Arial may be used. However, if you are writing to a more liberal company, you have a little more freedom when choosing fonts. Punctuation. After the salutation and closing, use a colon after the salutation, never a comma, and a comma after the closing. In some circumstances, you may also use a less common format known as the open punctuation. For this style, punctuation is included after the salutation and the closing. A standard business letter can be divided into an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Each section responds to or clarifies a specific issue for the recipient. So that's it for today's video, and I hope you learned something about business correspondence and writing a business letter. And thank you and happy learning!